How to get the earnest money deposit for your real estate wholesale deal for $1. Hey, what's going on everyone? Devin up here, back at you with a brand new video. And the video that I'm talking about today, it honestly should probably be inside of one of my courses or something. But I decided I should just give this out for some free value and content just for you guys. And I'm going to be talking about how I am able to get my earnest money deposit for as low as $1. And yes, that's right. I've done an earnest money deposit to the seller for only $1. Obviously, I'm not talking about the buyer end giving the earnest money down for the assignment contract. That's a little bit different. You want to get more money from that. And I've talked about that in other videos, but I'm going to talk about how I get the seller, convince the seller that I'm only going to give them like $1 to $10 for earnest money, so that way I don't have to put down a lot of money, and then if I have to cancel the contract, potentially lose that money. And so you realize this is a win for you as a wholesaler because you don't have that much money on the line and having to go through this back and forth discussion of trying to get your money back. Obviously, at the end of the day, as long as your contingencies are set correctly and everything kind of runs good inside of your state, and you can maybe talk to an attorney about it. It really doesn't matter how much earnest money you put down. You can always get that back as long as you're within the contingencies of your contract. It really just depends on what contract you're using, obviously. So the thing is, though, if you have like $1 to $10, it's like you really have nothing really to lose at the end of the day. You lose $1 to $10. And I've done both before. I've only done $1 once, and I've done $10 a couple of times. And I've kind of figured out the way to do it. I didn't make a video on this like a while back because I wasn't really sure how to do it. I actually didn't really understand earnest money for a long time, and I even closed a couple deals and still didn't fully understand it. I thought it was just some money that you brought, that the buyer paid immediately before anything was done. But in most states, in order for a contract to be legally binding, you have to put down some sort of earnest money deposit. And obviously that varies and it's negotiable what the earnest money deposit is, but it's just proof that you're willing to purchase the property. And normally on an average house, it's about 1%, 1 to 2% of what the purchase price of the house is. So if it's a $200,000 house, normally the earnest money deposit should be about $2,000 that you pay to the seller. But you see the difference, $10 versus $2,000. So now how do I go about this process to get the earnest money deposit just so low? How do I get it so low that I really don't have to worry about losing money? And so the thing is you're really riding on what the motivation is of the situation. So one of the really good ones to kind of help this out and just put down like $1 is the speediness of the closing date. So if you have a closing date that's like 7 days out, earnest money really isn't that big of a deal in the mind of you and the seller. The reason being is because everything's moving quickly. So if you have a really small time frame of when you can close on this deal, obviously the earnest money, it's like not really much time goes by. You're basically either going to buy the property or you're not going to buy the property. And in most states, don't quote me on this, I'm not giving you guys legal advice, but I know in most states you get like 3 days before you can deposit the earnest money. So if you go through 3 days and deposit the earnest money 3 days in, even if it's like $2,000, you only have 4 days left. So why does the earnest money deposit really matter all that much in the time frame or comparatively to what's going on? Now, obviously, some circumstances they really just want you to show that you're serious, but I'm going to tell you guys how to do it. And when there's a small time frame like that, obviously it's kind of a given, but just, hey, I know we got like a short amount of time until we can close, until the closing date. I don't know if we can close in 7 days or whatnot, but in order for this contract to be legally binding and for everything to just start moving forward, and I want to process this as fast as possible so we can get this going with the title company and everything. I got $10 in my pocket right now. I can give this to you and I can send it right off and we can start getting it processed immediately so we can get things moving forward. And you kind of see how I'm just like, we can either wait 3 days to process this or we can do it now. And if I have to do like $1,000, $2,000, I usually take my time to go deposit that earnest money. But if I have if I can just give them $10 right then and there, or even just $1, just be like, I have to give you something in order for this to be legally binding. You don't really need to explain fully what an earnest money deposit is to the seller. It's not really that big of a deal. It's not going to really make or break the deal most times. But if they don't know what an earnest money deposit is, just explain to them, hey, I have to give you something in order for this contract to be legally binding. And that is the truth for most contracts and everything. So if you got $1, if you got $10, you can even give them like a paper clip if you have to. I've like heard crazy stories like that of like things that you have to, like just random objects that people have given for an earnest money deposit. And you can kind of make a joke out of it. And if you have a team, you can obviously make a joke out of that as well. See who can get rid of the most random object as an earnest money deposit. And obviously that really makes sense for something that's like a quicker transaction, but other transactions as well, I kind of just use the same reasoning behind why I'm only giving them $1 and $10. Is just because, hey, I want to get this process as soon as possible, so that way we can just start getting this moving and at least get the paperwork moving, so that's out of the way. I got $10 in my pocket right now. We can get this moving right away. I never bring up like $1,000 or whatever, $2,000. I kind of just like, hey, I got $10. Let's get it moving quickly. And if they're a motivated seller, to be honest, the earnest money really shouldn't be that big of a deal. If they are making a big deal out of the earnest money and you're kind of new to the business, that's kind of a big sign that they're not really all that motivated. Just a little bit of insight for you as well. So if you want to queue for, like, even if you think it's kind of somewhat of a good deal, but you're not too sure of the numbers, if they are really upset and need a specific earnest money deposit and they're not swaying from it, chances are high. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to not be motivated, but they're very likely to not be a motivated seller. So just kind of keep that in mind and be aware of that when you're doing this. But I just tell them, hey, I got $10 and let's just do this forward. Or the other way that you can do it, and I've seen other people do it as well. Most times it just works for me doing the like time frame thing. But another way to do this as well, just for like something like $10, is something along the lines of, hey, my company usually lets me just do $10 just so that way we can get this process quickly and get things moving forward. If they need a little bit, like if that doesn't make sense to them, just be like, hey, we got a lot of money tied up in a bunch of different properties and we're definitely going to be able to close on this deal, but I just want to get this process right now. So if I give you $10 right here, we can get this moving forward. And kind of just, obviously it's kind of the same reasoning for giving them $10. And you don't need to go into full detail, obviously, just do like a simple explanation if they want. They're like, no, or why, then do a little bit more in-depth, kind of explanation. But you don't want to just answer a question that hasn't really fully been asked. You just want to give them the truth, or like the quick answer. If they want a more in-depth answer, then you go back and explain it. So that way you're not over-explaining it. And if they didn't have a problem with it before, if you're just like, hey, I need to give you $10 in order to make this legally binding, if you try to explain the whole story to the seller and just be like, hey, I need to give you $10 so that way we can get this signed up today, and I only have $10 in my pocket because we have a lot of capital tied up and a lot of other stuff, but we're going to be able to close on this property. So if I can just give you $10 right here, I can give it to you today and we can get this signed up, and then we can send the rest of the earnest money deposit in 3 days if you want to do $1,000 or $2,000. Don't say all that, obviously. Like, if you say all of that, then you're going to change the mind of the seller, even if, like, without you knowing that they would have been okay with just the $10. So you see, like, that's maybe like a full explanation if you have to, if you just keep getting the why, or no. But if you just just start off, hey, in order for this to be legally binding, I have to give you something. I got $10 on me. Here you go. Just say that. But if you need a little bit more of an explanation, just go one step at a time. And then maybe at the end, if they keep saying no or why, do the full explanation. So you just got like 5 different reasons for why you want to, like, you just need to give them $10 to just make it move quickly. And that's all you have really on you. You don't need to go in the full in-depth explanation. And it's gonna work pretty well for you guys. I didn't do this for a while because I didn't fully have a grasp of what earnest money deposit was. And once I understood it, I was like, wow, I really need to get this as low as possible. And so I just tried it. And after trying it a couple times, honestly, like, I think I've only had a problem once with it. And it just makes it super simple, super easy. And when it comes to like $1 or $10, the thing is when it comes to $1 or $10, I don't know about you, but I'm not really too worried about losing $1 or $10. So I just give it to the seller. If it's something along the lines of like $1,000 plus or $500 plus, I usually want to give that to the title company, so that way the seller doesn't just pocket it and then I have to try to get the money from them by going through this whole process of trying to get my earnest money deposit if I have to cancel the contract. But if I give it to the title company and I cancel the contract, at least it's in the hands of the title company and I don't have to try to figure this all out with the seller, or else it's just going to make it a big bargain and a big hassle for you as a wholesaler. And now the thing is that I really want to just note inside of here, the earnest money deposit, it's only a matter of like if you have to cancel the contract or if you really don't have that much money, this trick will really help you out. If you have money to work with and you know it's a really good deal, the earnest money deposit, don't really worry about trying to get it as low as possible. If it's a crazy good deal and you have the money to put down as an earnest money deposit, honestly, like I would try it, but don't try to go well out of your way to try to put only $10 down, or else then it's just kind of ruin the relationship and kind of make you seem a little cheap or something like that. If it's like a really good deal, I wouldn't even just try to risk trying to get it as low as possible. Just try it once. If it doesn't work, do like $1,000, $2,000, whatever you can afford and that you and the seller can agree upon. Because I mean, if you're making like $20,000 on a deal, just guaranteed, you know for a fact, and that's probably the minimum you're making. What's $1,000 if you know that this deal is going to move forward and you won't have problems with it? So just giving you guys a little bit of a good explanation of how I do my earnest money deposit. If you want a little bit more information, then I really recommend that you go check this out, this video right here. And if you need help with the step-by-step process of getting into wholesaling real estate, I really recommend that you go check out this video right here. I'm going to take you through everything that you need to know to get into the business. So anyways, hope you all enjoy this video. See you all tomorrow. Peace.